So yeah, I'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully Lisa will be on any momentarily. So our project is called Sensory Kinship of the Third Kind. And we are both students, PhD students in electronic arts at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute in Troy, New York. I have a background in actually food studies, as well as art and media. And Lisa is a composer, percussionist, and sound artist with a background in entomology and ecology. This project is sort of an ongoing collaboration using creative methods to consider how mushrooms might sense and how we might sense them. It's based in workshops, a field guide, and an audio, video, and installation work featuring multi-sensory engagement with mushrooms. So the title of our project actually references a scene in the 1977 film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, in which humans attempt to communicate with extraterrestrials towards sound. Importantly, they pivot away from human-centered language and reach out with something more affective and sensory. Like with extraterrestrial life, there is an inherent separation of humans from fungus in most Western cultures, both physically and culturally, and most fungal labor and energy is hidden from human sensing. When considering aliens, the kind of third kind indicates an embodied encounter. In our project, we consider fungal bodies as a third kind in their occupation of liminal spaces between life and death, hovering between our world and the underworld of soil, and outside categorization as either an animal or a plant. Oh, sorry, this did not advance over here. There, similar to extraterrestrial life, there is an inherent separation of humans from fungus in most Western cultures, both physically and culturally. And so we're sort of investigating what that liminal space is like. Anna Singh has also spoken of the ecological third kind as an entity which sort of veers outside capitalization and commodification. So until recently, fungi have been overlooked in mainstream popular science narratives and academia, up until quite recently, disproportionate to their ubiquity and importance. And fungi, in fact, were only even recognized as their own biological kingdom in the late 1960s. There's been a recent increase in cultural and public interest in fungus, which provides an opportunity for reconsideration of our relationship with mushrooms. A lot of this is sort of turns them into kind of a commodity and even a spectacle. A lot of mushrooms being used as a kind of utopian substrate to solve problems in package design. And a lot of these applications are actually really important and interesting, but it kind of has been aestheticized in the media as, everything from a pattern on a dress to sort of just a commodified product. And we're trying to move beyond mere spectacle or trend and kind of get at the more sensory and messy aspects of fungal existence that are often kept at bay with some of these plastified applications.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, hi.
Okay. If you continue sharing the screen, I'll just talk without.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So can you advance to the next slide? Yeah. So in these explorations of mushrooms in our project, we're recognizing that our existing knowledge about mushrooms has been constrained by just basically our limited understanding of the millions of fungal species in existence, and also just by the nature of scientific research. The science has been hesitant to comment on what non-human sentience or communication is like. And with artistic research, on the other hand, we have more freedom to explore these ideas. Mycologist Merlin Sheldrake has outlined just how speculative our research questions might be regarding mushrooms. And he said, are network-based life forms like fungi capable of a form of cognition? Can we think of their behavior as intelligent? If other organisms intelligent didn't look like ours, and how might it appear? And so it's this idea of developing a greater understanding of how mushrooms sense and experience the world through artistic research using technology.
Yeah, and so, in order to gain a deeper understanding of the kind of cryptic communication and sensing that mushrooms participate in. We know that they can sense electrical impulses as well as volatile chemicals in their environment, and they have the mycelial network actually has quite a complex form of communication that's actually been compared to human language in a recent paper by Adam Adsky. And so we are engaging with our nonverbal senses in creative engagements with mushrooms and their mycelial networks. We think that artistic research is amenable to this kind of environmental learning and exploring forms of mushroom sensing because by its very nature, it asks us to engage multiple senses. Artistic works are affective in that way. And in our project, this happens through investigative work in the field and through making the work accessible to a public audience, which we think is important to kind of democratize the research around fungi as well. And we engage in workshops and public events. This work also acknowledges the inaccessibility of non-human sort of situated knowledge, which is a term that comes from Donna Haraway. And it suggests that speculation, as opposed to the collecting of objective data, is a valid entry point for understanding fungal worlds. Also, the artist and scholar Tomie Han has written about how sensory exploration of the environment, sensory exploration of the environment can create a safe and accountable space that offers playful qualities. And this can stir up new experiences and ideas and move our participants to the edge of vulnerability so that growth can actually flourish. And, we think that using the senses can actually embrace the kind of uncanny third kind liminality of mushrooms and form a kind of being with otherwise unseen sensory fungal worlds. So much of fungi's existence happens in the soil, and the mushroom is just the fruiting body and the reproductive organ of this larger network.
So I'll elaborate here on some of the specific exercise that we're doing having to do with sound. So a lot of the ideas I've been working on personally that we're engaging with in the project are based on ideas of composer, environmental sound artist David Dunn, who has written a lot about how a consideration of the nonverbal can aid in our understanding of non-human communication. So, and he especially emphasizes the potential for musical communication to enable interspecific understanding. And he has pointed out that the devaluing of paralinguistic modes, so nonverbal modes, and our considerations of language has limited our possibilities in interspecific communication. And I love this quote. He says, is it possible to use the very tool through which we construct reality to imagine any other outside it? Can you go to the next?
Yeah.
So one of the exercises we do is listening to soil. And in this exercise, we do put microphones on the mushrooms and around the mushrooms, but also in the substrate they grow in, which might be soil, might be decomposing material. And we're listening to the soundscape to which the mushrooms live in. So speculating that mushrooms can sense vibration, we're listening to the vibrations that they are surrounded by and that they experience. And we use several different kinds of microphones in this exercise to sense vibration. So we use contact microphones and also microphones that sense sound through the air. And in our experience with this exercise, participants have been surprised at how quiet the soil is, and then they get excited about kind of adding their own sonic inputs into that. So moving around in the area, which can be heard through the microphones, and kind of experiencing how much human sound can impact that soundscape. In the sounding through soil exercise, instead of listening to that, we actually intentionally project sound through the soil substrate to see how that soil substrate acts as a sound processor, just like you would use a guitar pedal with a guitar. And so we experiment with sending voice and music and different sounds through that soil substrate. And what we're interested in here is how fungi might sense our own sound specifically, and how the soil and different kinds of soil might affect it differently. And so the volume is definitely lowered in this exercise, but we found that with most sounds, since they were new to the listeners, participants, it was hard for them to really tell what was being affected by the sound. We played a popular song by Donna Summer, Through the Soil, and then it was really obvious to everyone how the timbre and tonal quality of the song was being affected by the soil, since they knew that how that song normally sounded. The third exercise that we use having to do with sound is mushroom language. And Allie's done some interesting experiments in this exercise, using the results from this exercise and creating poems by superimposing the resulting data on top of writing about mushrooms. And another thing we do with this exercise with the resulting data is just ask participants to make their own translations of these electrical impulses that we're measuring from the mushrooms. And we ask them to try and translate them, in quotes, using nonverbal means. So how would you maybe use your body or musical sound, paralinguistic modes, to explain what the mushrooms might be communicating. And in social media, there's been a lot of sharing of this method of the sensing of electrical impulses by mushrooms. And in most posts we've seen, they tend to like give it really like very musical flavor of different kinds. And so this is a very subjective process. You can attach any kind of musical sound to these impulses. What the impulses are is just like whether there is electrical energy and what the difference is between these 2 points.
I'll go quickly because I know we don't have too much time. So there's also some smell exercises, because one way that mushrooms sense, like I said, is picking up volatile chemicals in their environment, and the closest thing that humans have as an analog is actually smell. So participants are given ways to smell the mushroom habitat. It's sort of a smell mapping exercise. And I like this quote from Dave and Michael Levin, that we must take our thinking down into the body and learn to think through the body and with the body. And so, you know, we kind of dig up the dirt that mushrooms live in and bark that they're growing on, and explore different types of smell relating to how their environment changes. So how dirt might smell differently due to amounts of rainfall, and what you can tell from smell about drought, what you can tell about the composition of plant life, and just sort of people's own memories, and kind of letting people treat it almost like a wine tasting, but it's sort of smelling the habitat. There's also a meditation and visualization that the workshop opens with, which leads participants through prompts to attempting to experience the temporality, physicality, and communication as a mushroom might. And so this is kind of a grounding exercise that, you know, kind of explores the dynamic processes of living and dying, and how you can shape shift in your body to think through how mushrooms and myceliums grow on such a different timeline and in such a different way than humans do. I won't go through all of these slides, but yeah, people did report that it really helped them understand better the mycelial to mushroom relationship before starting the exercises. So this entire film is, you know, as it said, being screened in the gallery. So please go watch the whole thing. It's not that long. But in the interest of time, I will just, you know, skip ahead to the end here, and you know, just say that our conclusions basically are that we think there's alternative means beyond spectacle and anthropomorphism to investigate non-human life and connect to fungi and mushroom soundscapes. And just that we have several iterations of this coming up, and we're excited to have been able to share it with extended senses.
Thank you for having us.
You. Fab.